my rear camera is broken. This is how I got the phone. I actually dropped my old iPhone 6S that I had finally paid off, and I completely ruined the screen but couldn't afford to fix it or get a contract for a new one. But I was lucky enough to have a friend who wasn't using their old phone and gave me this. I use the rear camera a lot though because I love taking pictures of birds and things I see throughout the day. So I finally have enough money to try and fix it, but I have no experience fixing this kind of stuff. My phone is a Motorola G6 Play, so it's a bit old, but it's all I need. I consulted the internet and found 2 sources specifically helpful. iFixit has a lot of good resources for fixing phones by yourself, and extra tips that YouTube videos sometimes neglect. Another main source I used was Whitrigs. They have some really helpful YouTube videos on this specific phone, so I tried to follow their video and ordered parts from their site. I was disappointed in myself, though, as it meant I'm ordering the parts from China, which, if I looked further, I think I could have found something a bit closer to home. But I digress. I also used an old set of phone repair tools that my partner bought several years ago, but you can get away with regular items like tweezers instead of buying a special tool set. I bought a new rear camera adhesive, a new glass cover for the camera that is held by plastic that also covers the battery. I realize now that I should have looked at buying more adhesive, but anyway. Here I'm showing the main tools that I used. You just need something to screw, something to pick up, and something to pry open the back. You also need some type of heat gun or hair dryer. I do not have a heat gun, and I also wasn't sure if my hair dryer was hot enough, so I used a little thermometer to test it out, and I got a bit below the suggested temperature of 80 degrees Celsius, but I thought it was probably hot enough. I don't really think it was though, but this hair dryer is super old, and I'm sure whatever hair dryer you have at home will work. So the first step is to heat the adhesive to pry open the back. I have an Uno card over about where the battery is, to the left bottom of the phone, because I was scared I was going to ruin it with the heat, but obviously I gave up on that idea pretty quickly. Cards like this were the thinnest item I could find to get me started, but it honestly took me forever. Prying open the back took me about half an hour, and the cards kept bending and deforming. If you have a very thin plastic card, like a license or just any piece of plastic that's about that thin, I highly suggest that instead of playing cards. I'm starting to use thicker tools here, just because it makes it easier. I put more heat on it a second time because I think the heat was genuinely too low to do a lot in a small bit of time, and in the end it was some gentle force that got it to open. As you can see, I'm bending the back quite a bit, but it didn't cause any lasting deformation. Now I'm starting to unscrew an L-shaped bracket on the back that connects the fingerprint sensor to the phone, called the Fingerprint Sensor Flex Bracket. I have a little magnet there to keep all my screws in one place. Next, you just pry up the sensor so that the back of the phone is freely separated. And now I'm just trying to figure out where in the heck I need to unscrew the battery and camera cover. There's some pretty helpful diagrams that BitRigs has made videos about, so I suggest taking a look at those. But it is fairly intuitive, or is it because I was obviously struggling here? I had another look at the screws because they have a blue tint in the bottom half, which I just thought was nice. Anyway, I'll speed it up around here. This screw I seriously struggled to get out, gave up on, and came back to later. You know, like they say to do in exams. Once I had everything unscrewed, that full cover needs to be pried off. It seemed pretty easy in the video that I initially watched, but I had to be a bit forceful with it. Just keep going, you can do it. It's not connected to anything anymore, and you probably won't damage another piece by pulling it off. Now, to get to the camera, I'm gently pulling up the battery flex cable with not a lot of force. To the right of the camera, there's a small fabric-like material that you gently peel away from the rear camera, and once separated, you can pull up the camera. I was trying to be gentle with that piece of fabric because it seemed so fragile. I just didn't want to tear it. I wanted to show you the old camera for some reason, apparently. I just thought it was pretty. Now it's just about putting things back together. If your new camera is like mine, you have to bend it a bit to get it to fit into that little space, but once it's in, it's easy. Flip the fabric-like piece back over, and I gently brushed it like a weirdo. In a video I watched, they said to test if the camera was working, but if you have this phone, you know how long it takes for it to turn on, and it just wasn't worth it. make sure to press the battery back in. I realized with the new back piece, it didn't have that white piece where the light comes out just below the camera, so I stole that piece from my old one, and it slotted in perfectly. Now it's just about getting the screws in. My advice is to not rush things and take your time. The point of doing stuff like this is to save you money, and hence less stress as well. You'll notice I forgot to put the fingerprint sensor in before the flex bracket, but I make my way back after realizing. Funny, because I was so careful in getting those screws back in, only to take them out. Now that my phone is finally on, I'm testing the camera before I get the adhesive out. And it's so pretty. Now I'm fixing my previous mistake. Fitting it back in perfectly was harder than I expected. Not anything crazy though. I am smoothing everything down, giving it a little blessing, in hopes that it turns out okay. I was worried when I first tested things out because the fingerprint scanner wasn't working, and I thought I broke it. So I really had to press the sides in because they were sticking out. I am not a big or very strong person, so I'm sure it will not take as much force for you. And next I'll just show you the comparison of the camera quality before and after, and I hope this video helps you realize that you can fix things on your own. You don't always have to just pay someone to do it for you. You could argue that time is money, money is time, but sometimes it just makes you feel good if you fix something yourself. Thanks for watching!